What is your story? What is your story you've taught yourself to tell the world? What is your story you've taught yourself to believe? You may not realize it, but we all have a story. It's what defines us and how we present ourselves to the world. But does it represent who you are now and how you want to live your life today? Maybe, just maybe, it's time to change your story. But how? What does this picture right here look like? A child's scribble, a mess. It's a mess. This was my life growing up. No direction. It was totally chaotic, out of control. This was my life story. This is my story now. Much more calm, much more directed, and much more peaceful. But let me tell you something. It was not easy to get from here to here. I had to dig deep. And I had a lot of people show up in my life to help me learn, to give myself permission, to have courage, and lead with my heart in order to change my life story from this to this. If I can do it, so can you. So I want you to turn to the first page in your booklet, and I want you to answer the first two questions. What is your story? Does it reflect who you are now? And draw the story you're currently telling the world. Now, the picture doesn't have to look like this. Some people like their story like this. I mean, that it's right now is like this, and they want it like this. It could be a cloud. It could be anything. So just take a few minutes. Just put your first thought down. My first story started when I was 7 years old. I was wearing my favorite Betty Boop t-shirt that I wore for at least a week in a row until someone told me, you have to take that off. I was running around my pink room with my older sister, Debbie. I was wondering if I could take my Davy Jones poster with me. We were not going on a sleepover with friends. We were running away from my mother to go find my father. We were running around and we were grabbing whatever we actually could carry with us in the middle of the night before my mom got home. My mom was an alcoholic. And after many sad, frightening, and sometimes very dangerous episodes, including earlier that evening, when my mom and her boyfriend Jerry showed up at a family dinner completely drunk. We were humiliated. And then continued to drive us home, swerving all over the road. We knew we had to leave that night. My heart was pumping like a drum because I thought we were doing something really bad. But there was my older sister, Debbie, giving me strength and reassurance, letting me know we were doing the right thing that night. I remember very, very clearly looking at my goldfish, because they were my friends. I was really contemplating carrying them on our walk to go find our father. My sister taught me to be courageous that night in order to leave my mother, who I loved. I didn't know what courage was. I just did what I had to do. How in the world did my sister and I garner that courage? We just were doing what we had to do to survive. I've also witnessed courage in my mother overcoming her addiction, going back to school to become a registered nurse. If any of you are nurses out there, that's not an easy thing to do. Yes, her first story was that she was an alcoholic. She lost her children because of it. But somehow, she didn't let losing her children harden her heart. Somehow, she used her heart to find her courage and her strength. And she changed the story of her life. She is my hero. And I never moved back with my mother. But I rekindled a loving, caring relationship with her. And today, she remains a beautiful, intelligent, caring mother who I cherish dearly. I've also witnessed courage in the people I've worked with in my career as a life coach. For the past 20 years, I have had the honor and the privilege to peer into people's souls and see their courage and see their strength when they had no idea they had any courage at all. I was very curious about this. I wanted to understand what makes the difference in people that experience insurmountable circumstances in their life and used it to find their strength and find their courage, just like my mom, versus the ones that had the same opportunity, but they never recovered and they buckled. I was astounded with some of these stories, and I'd like to share just a few of them with you. There was a mother who gave birth to her child and at 9 months old lost her child. She goes on to have her second child with cerebral palsy. There was a teenager that was abducted by a cult, held against her will. She manages to escape free. A young mother loses her husband in a plane crash, leaving her to raise her 2 small children. A mother nurses 2 of her 3 daughters through breast cancer. One survives, the other one not so lucky. Now, these women had courage to survive these circumstances in their life. That's how they demonstrated courage. So I was astounded when I read these stories and realized that these women did not see themselves as courageous. And recently, I was giving a talk about these women. And I've been giving this talk for the past 2 years. And then suddenly, somebody in the audience asked me, "Terry, what is your story of courage?" I was speechless. I was just taken back. And I had this deep, gut-wrenching feeling in my stomach. And it would not go away. And suddenly I realized I am one of them. I am just like these women. I didn't see my life experiences as courageous. I felt like I was just lucky to survive. In fact, when I thought about the word courageous, I thought that was used for people that did the impossible. Not for me. So why is it that we as women, majority of us, do not put ourselves in the same category as the word courage, when women are the most courageous people I have ever met. So go back to your notebooks right now and write down, have you had an opportunity to demonstrate courage but didn't realize it until now? Just take a few seconds. I also realized that writing my book was one of the most courageous endeavors of my own life. You see, in high school, I was really insecure, and I was extremely sad. I left high school my junior year to go live with my older sister Debbie in Arizona. I never graduated from high school or college. I did eventually get my high school equivalency, which is called GED, and I've had very successful careers. But I did use this story to feel like I never measured up. I was never good enough. And then I had people show up in my life again to help me believe I could write and publish a book. Go figure, a high school dropout, an author and speaker. Telling you this right now is so liberating. You see, I was an expert at hiding my past. I would do anything to look poised and put together on the outside so no one would see that crack of imperfection on the inside. So let me ask you something right now. What are you an expert at hiding? It's not in the booklet. It's just something to think about. What I learned from writing 100 Hearts and from my own life story is that we first of all have to give ourselves permission to have courage. And let me tell you, it takes courage to be the best version of who you are. It takes courage to speak with your true voice. It takes courage to be vulnerable and ask for help from others. It takes courage to challenge your thoughts and your perceptions that life, society, family, and even religions have given you. And it takes courage to change your story. So courage for me started in small steps. It was as simple as coming home from work and going for a run instead of reaching for my favorite comfort food, chocolate chip ice cream. Or even making that phone call, that dreaded phone call I've been putting off for months. Saying no to that third glass of wine. Or not believing what everyone else told me I should do. Instead, I did what I knew I should do. So now, go to your booklets again and think of one small step you can take to be more courageous today. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Maybe get up 10 more minutes early to do 10 more push-ups. Say hi to a stranger could be courageous for some. When you found your courage to change your story, what is your new story? And how are you going to find it? You're going to take that newfound courage and you're going to look deep into your heart. You're going to let your heart tell you, and you're going to let your heart lead you. And you're going to ask for help from others, like I did. What has kept you from being the best version of who you are? Is it because you have not given yourself permission I got married the first time in my late 20s. I was looking for security and a life different than I had growing up. And I found that person. I felt safe, I felt loved. But after a couple years of marriage, I started to feel like I morphed into his life and his personality because I so desperately wanted to feel safe and fit in. We were raising 2 beautiful sons at the time and 2 beautiful stepchildren. But I found myself lost and sad. And it was not my happy, optimistic self. My head was telling me, Terry, stop complaining. Be grateful for what you have. Don't ask for anything else from yourself. But now, being a mother of 2 beautiful souls, I wanted to be the best mother I could for them. I wanted to teach them, by example, to lead with their heart. So I reached out to friends, I started reading inspirational books, and I gave myself permission to connect to my heart. That's when I discovered I had a passion and I had a purpose to make a difference in other people's life, like others had made a difference in mine. So I decided to go back to school to become a life coach. And during the training, what I discovered when I looked into my own soul was that I was not living an authentic life. How in the world can I make a difference in others' lives if I can't even be my true self? We decided to get divorced. It took courage. It took heart for me to know that my 2 sons would be better off with a mother that was whole rather than broken. It was the hardest decision of my life. At the same time, it was the best decision of my life to live the full expression of who I am today, making a difference in other people's lives. So think about some things that you've been waiting to do in your life. Are you waiting to get permission from others? Or are you waiting to get permission from yourself? Again, I'd like you to write 3 things down that you would do if you gave yourself permission. I've conveniently given you a permission slip. And it's in your booklet, and it's between you and yourself. So no more excuses. You and only you can give yourself permission to change your story to reflect who you are now. Let me tell you that one more time. You and only you can give yourself permission to change your story to reflect who you are now. So now with your new perspective on your life story, get out those books and start writing the first few sentences of your story. I'm going to give you one last story about how I learned to trust leading with my heart. What helped me trust leading with my heart was when I lost everything emotionally and materially in my early 20s from a con artist boyfriend. This guy took me for every penny I had, and he left me sleeping on my girlfriend's couch. It was literally the lowest time of my life. I questioned everything I believed and who I was. I was completely numb. My heart was closed off to the world. Every TV show, movie, family, and friends supported me in being bitter, angry, and a victim. And at the time, I was giving eye exams to the elderly. I really connect with these people. If any of you have ever worked with the elderly, you know exactly what I mean. They love unconditionally. They share without reserve. Many times they shared things I would rather not have ever heard. But during this heartbreaking situation in my life, I would go in and I couldn't feel anything for them. I couldn't feel love, care, compassion, nothing. My heart was closed off to the world. I went in day after day, week after week, trying to feel something, anything. Nothing. Until one day, Emma walks in. She had a huge smile on her face that lit up the room and started to melt my closed-off heart. She had the cutest little pink dress on, purple hair to match, cute little patent leather purse, and a very strong smell of Shalimar perfume. She started asking questions about me. She cared about me. Her first question was, "Darling, how's your day today?" She took me out of this deep thought I was in of how my car was being repossessed out in the clinic parking lot right at that very moment. I looked back at her and could answer her much better now, Emma. And I saw love from a stranger. And all of a sudden, I started feeling this warm sensation around my heart. And I felt love, care, and compassion for her. It's still extremely emotional to me because I knew in that moment that I would never want to lose that connection to my heart or ever feel bitter, angry, or a victim again. You see, when I'm connected to my heart, I'm calm and I feel assured. And that's where I found my strength to survive my past. That's where I found my courage to change my story. And I found the courage to be the best version of who I am today. So give yourself permission to find your courage. Finding your courage will connect you to your heart. Being connected to your heart will lead you to your passions and your purpose. And when you're living your passions, it will give you courage to live the full expression of who you are. So ladies, isn't it time to heal our past? Change our story to represent who we are today. Live in present time. Look forward to the future, no matter what it may hold. None of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. But I can guarantee you the best things are going to happen tomorrow when you live your life with permission, courage, and heart. Thank you.